Hall of Fame class.
Okay.
And what I don't want to do is allow the accomplishments of these 5 men to be overshadowed by those who did not join them. Congratulations to Drew Brees and Larry Fitzgerald
That's
and
right.
Luke Kuechly, Adam Vinatieri, and Roger Craig, all of whom are richly deserving of the highest possible award that a football player can receive.
Having said that,
unfortunately, so much of the attention is going to be on those who did not get honored last night. I particularly hate this for Roger Craig, because Roger Craig is the one who did emerge from that group of 5 that included Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft.
Yeah.
And people are going to look at Roger Craig, and rather than saying he was the first running back ever to have 1,000 yards receiving and 1,000 yards rushing in a season, and only 2 have done it since, and instead of saying, so he completely revolutionized the game.
3-time Super Bowl
one
champion.
of the all-time terrific players on one of the all-time great teams. Instead, people are saying, how do they put Roger Craig in instead of Bill Belichick, which is completely unfair to Roger Craig. So congratulations to him. He richly deserves it.
Absolutely.
The other thing, because we knew that Bill didn't get in and we knew that Bob Kraft didn't get in. Eli Manning, for a second consecutive year, doesn't get into the Hall of Fame. Are you surprised?
I'm not. Definitely a Hall of Famer, but not first ballot, second ballot. He's going to have to wait. We look at Adam Vinatieri. He's responsible for like 3 Super Bowls himself. I know he's a kicker, but, Eli's been he had a great story, and Eli's going to get in because of who he beat. And he had a good career, not a great one. It was never a time, in when I was playing or when I looked at Eli where I thought he was top 5 in the league. And that's saying a lot. But what he was clutch when it mattered most.
Yeah.
But it was too much inconsistency in between. Those Giants were either great teams or really bad teams. And when you think about, Hall of Fame quarterbacks, they always have their team at least in the playoffs. And Eli didn't have that, unfortunately. But he'll get in.
It's a tough thing. But I would say this. A person that was consistent, Drew Brees, playing against him a lot, a guy that can go from read 1, read 2, read 3, back to read 1 for a touchdown. Yeah. He won a Super Bowl. I get it, Eli has won 2, but from a consistent standpoint and preparing for quarterbacks, you're worried about Drew Brees more so than you're worried about Eli Manning from that standpoint.
Well, and he threw, 5,000 yards 3 or 4 different times. Drew Brees definitely earned and well-deserved. I'll say this about Eli. Like, when you put up his numbers, the things that differentiate him from other quarterbacks being evaluated, he won 7 of 8 games in the playoffs on the road. That's really tough to do. Mm-hmm. 2 Super Bowl wins, 15 touchdowns, only two picks. That's massive in big games, right? So you're talking about being clutch. And then who he beat, right? Brady twice, Brett Favre, and Aaron Rodgers. So when you look at that, that is what you're saying. Like, when you talk about in the biggest moments, because I played with a guy for a number of years. They were like, he's the best regular season of all time, and they framed his career like broken apart. Well, if you're going to break it apart like that, then you can't look at Eli Manning and go, because the guy played better than anybody else when you look at playoffs.
It's just, right?
So
you look at it, the totality of his career. It's just a really hard, and this is what makes the Hall of Fame the Hall of Fame. Is Drew Brees absolutely no-brainer? Unfortunately for Eli, it's not quite yet.
You talk about the consistency in terms of wins and losses, right? He wasn't consistently winning, but it was a consistent organization. They weren't consistently a laughingstock like they became after he left until now. He played a huge role in the leadership and the foundation of that franchise.
Agreed.
Eli Manning is absolutely a Hall of Famer.
One
of my many problems with the whole selection process, it shouldn't be about whether Eli Manning is more deserving than Drew Brees or not.
Right.
Drew Brees, of course, is a Hall of Famer. He's one of the greatest and most accomplished quarterbacks ever. It doesn't change the fact that Eli Manning is also a Hall of Fame quarterback. He's the only quarterback with over 50,000 yards who's eligible to be in the Hall of Fame who isn't. He has 2 Super Bowl rings. The only other quarterback with 2 Super Bowl rings that's not in the Hall of Fame who's eligible is Jim Plunkett.
Yeah.
So everything about this bothers me.
Yeah,
and there's no reason there should be a limit on the number of people. We shouldn't be comparing them to each other. You either are or aren't a Hall of Famer. Eli Manning absolutely is one.
Just a little love to Luke Kuechly. Linebackers have families, too.
On DraftKings Sports.
Over-under on how many points they score. 20.5 is the number. I would play under. 3 playoff games so far this postseason. The offense is generating just 15 points per game. Now you're facing a Seattle defense that's number 1 in scoring, number 1 in efficiency, number 1 in EPA. The Seahawks have given up 10 or fewer points in 5 of their last 8 games. I see them limiting what New England does, and again, winning this game by double digits.
All right, so Joe, in every way favoring the Seahawks in this Super Bowl. And despite the postseason run, Drake May has struggled against teams that were 500 or better. He was just talking about it. Same number of turnovers in 6 games against teams over 500 as compared to 14 games against all other teams this year. And so there are a couple of different ways to look at this thing. And Jeff, I'm going to start with you on this. Yeah. We've talked a lot about what the opposing offenses have struggled against the Patriots. And we have talked about, well, Justin Herbert, and he didn't have any offensive line play, and C.J. Stroud played an unbelievably bad game, and then you had, Stidham, and then the weather and all that kind of stuff. Lost underneath that is that the Patriots were an excellent defense all season long, and they will need to be that again on Sunday if they're going to have a chance to win. And they got a guy right in the middle of that defensive line that you think it all starts with.
Yeah, Milton Williams, Super Bowl champion Milton Williams, right? And now he's over in New England. And look what he did against all pros last week against Denver. But they've been doing this all season. And you think about he and Christian Barmore and talking about their ability to push the pocket inside. And I want people to understand, this is not just about sacks, y'all. When quarterbacks have to move off their spot and they have to reset their feet, the timing of offensive plays gets taken out. That is where Sam Darnold struggles. When Sam Darnold is in a clean pocket, no pressure, he has a 73 QBR. When he is pressured, 16. That is a massive difference. The internal pressure is where it really matters. All quarterbacks get accustomed to guys coming around the edge. They can step up in the pocket. Milton Williams, Christian Barmore, getting pressure, pushing the pocket. Again, not just sacks, but make him move, make him reset. Now you give your defense the full chance.
Look at the run defense as well. 12 games with Milton Williams this year. They gave up about 80 rushing yards per game. In the 5 games without, 140 rushing yards. That's a 60-yard difference.
Absolute beast.
Remember, there was that long stretch this season where they hadn't given up a 50-yard rushing game. So the Patriot defense is no joke. All the attention has gone to the Seattle defense all of this. And I think the conventional wisdom, as we open the show by saying, is all about how Drake May has to do something remarkable. How about Sam Darnold? I mean, you've been following him, obviously, since he was on the Jets, and this is the culmination of a long journey. He can forever rewrite his narrative with a big game on Sunday, but it will not be easy against this defense.
Well, ultimately, I think the football guys ultimately give both people the adversity and see who deals with it best, right? I think Sam Darnold's going to throw an interception or have a bad play or a turnover. How does he react to it? Does it become like the same old, like, oh, here we go again? Or does Drake May try and do too much, trying to be a star and a hero in the moment, understanding that sometimes the punt is the best play available? So it's about who handles the situational football, who handles, the 2-minute warning, who handles, 4th and 1. And it's about situational football. That's what these games come down to. You're going to have both teams are going to be tight. They're going to be punting the football. Special teams are going to be huge. I think you think about Raheem Shaheed, what a weapon that is. And I want to know if the Patriots are going to decide to kick the ball to him, or do they just say, I'll give you the ball on the 30 because I don't want this guy to flip the field?
I think special teams is big in this matchup on both sides, right? When
Absolutely.
you look at Marcus Jones with the ability to take a punt return back and Rashid Shaheed. So, which one of these special teams unit, because they're called special teams for a reason. The first thing you're supposed to do as a returner is make sure that you get the possession.
Secure it.
That's the reason why the Los Angeles Rams are sitting at home right now.
Kicks.
So, Rashid Shaheed being able to start a playoff game off with a kickoff return for a touchdown, but then that pivotal Thursday night football game versus the Los Angeles Rams that basically gave them the #1 seed, having a punt return and sparking that comeback. So if you're the coverage team of the New England Patriots, I agree with you, Bart. I'm trying to figure out, are we going to kick to this guy, or are we just going to say, hey, let's line up and play defense and give them the ball at 30-yard line?
3-phase game, there's no doubt. I love the special teams conversations because we know it can be a massive factor. I lost a Super Bowl with an onside kick to open a second half. It's those who have the guts to make those calls. I think both coaches potentially could do it. I would lean a little more towards Vrabel, would be a little more to play a little loose in that. But let me just say this to when you were talking about strategy and situational football. As you're looking at both these teams, first and second down, like people can kind of take it out, right? But it's the matchups, right? Are we going to double JSN? We're going to put Gonzalez on Kupp. We're going to put him on Rashid Shaheed. Like, how do those things, how do they take shape as the game progresses? Because how they do it in the first quarter may not be how they do it in the fourth quarter. But those are the things that we'll be watching. Because, again, everybody talks about like these things like they happen every snap. That's just not the case. It literally comes down to 10 to 12 plays. And it's how do those players players make exceptional plays in those moments, and that's really who.
And you don't know when they're going to come up.
You have no idea.
And against Peyton and good quarterbacks or good coordinators, we had to have 2 game plans.
No doubt.
And we switch it up in the second half so that we can make sure that we bust our own tendencies, because you look at what Seattle did when they put JSN in the backfield.
Yep.
They knew that they were going to box it one high, first inside, first outside.
Goes right.
And it created a receiver matchup against a linebacker. So it's about that stuff too. Using what you know.
That's right.
When we sent you guys home in the playoffs, which was rare, right? We knew that you guys were going to have a special check
Let
to Brandon Stokely.
That's right.
And when you saw cover 0. So we showed cover 0, we dropped out of it and, went and made the play.
Yeah.
We'll see where all this leads us on Sunday.
Stokely, what's wrong, man?
We told you last night at the awards that Matthew Stafford and Mike Vrabel won the biggest awards, but the biggest
him some milk.
honors of the night came as they announced the 2026 Pro Football